I'm Lauren from the Rhode Island School of Design, and I'm just about to finish my master's in graphic design. So being in grad school has actually afforded me a lot of opportunities as sort of an incubation period for research and development. And my presentation today is going to focus more on my process of collecting stories and making collective experiences rather than more traditional graphic design and my actual thesis work. So before starting in graphic design, my background was in fine art at NYU. And while I was in New York, I was involved in sort of a big community of artists and designers who were collecting their work in what we called zines. And the opportunity in these publications was sort of to find a thread, sort of collective thinking within all of our work. Out of this spirit, I made this book entitled Chip, which is a collection of 27 artists and writers on the theme of authorship. And the book is actually designed in the model of Wikipedia, which is an amazing example of sort of collective authorship and a contemporary phenomenon of that. So it's navigated through these sort of links and tags and colored tabs so that you don't have to read it in a linear fashion. And I think that working with this kind of nonlinear narrative made me really interested in how storytelling and fiction can sort of be an interesting way to approach our lives and sort of our collective experiences. This is Werner Herzog, whose incredible documentary work has vision in terms of what I was describing for fiction as the truth. And he eloquently states it as fiction as truth liberated from fact. And this is very inspiring sort of for my work. So intrigued by fiction, I built this project called a narrative kit, which combines interviews that I conducted as well as literary characters in my own story to make a new hybrid character. And with this project, the viewer is invited to sort of navigate the different parts like audio tracks or Polaroids, logs, diaries to build a new narrative. So in my time working with graphic design, I've worked a lot in two-dimensional forms, photographs and posters and books. And as I progressed with these experiments, I got more and more interested in three-dimensional ways to do the same ideas of fiction and narrative, like ice typography or paper-constructed informational graphics. And in the spirit of what I was describing earlier with zine culture and my peers, I'm extremely inspired by work by my peers. So this is work by my peers, which is more and more tactile and sort of interactive, inviting the viewer to participate. So these experimentation with objects got me interested in how objects could be narratives. So this is a project called A Broken Thing, which I did in collaboration with another designer. And it collects broken objects from a random source of people, friends, family, and the stories of how they broke. And then the stories are printed black on black so that you have to hold them up to the light of the chandelier that was built to read the story. From objects, I became interested in sort of three-dimensional spaces as narrative. So I took these experiments into installations. This installation is called Listen, and it discusses the interaction between two characters in the space that surrounds them. In this instance, the narrative is sort of a slice in time and a pause. The kitchen space was particularly interesting for me to work in with installations because of how familiar it is. And through these sort of mundane situations and mundane environments, I see more potential for storytelling and for change and for subversion sort of a normal environment. These are also my inspiration. This is Brian Gysin and William Burroughs, who in the 60s worked a lot with sort of kinetic sculpture and lights and projects like the Dream Machine to find new ways to make your familiar experiences sort of unusual. This installation by Olafur Eliasson also inspired my next project. It's a reconstruction of the sun in the main atrium of the Tate Modern that he did in 2004. And though the weather is sort of a collective and common experience, viewers of this installation reported disorientation and nausea when confronted to it in sort of an unusual space. So this installation that I did is in a janitor's closet in my school, and it combines sculptural objects as well as video and audio that I crafted to sort of interfere with your daily experience. So historically, artistic mediums have been looked to bring fantasy and the supernatural to life. And the supernatural is really something that I'm looking at right now with my actual thesis work within the next, which is finishing really soon. And so in the early 1900s, all the way until the 1970s, there was a boom in spirit photography, which reflected a desire to capture something intangible and provoke spiritual experiences of the everyday. So that was just a 20-second slice of one of my videos, which takes from sources of pop culture like B-rated horror movies and science fiction films to create this installation, which was sort of a kinetic environment to provoke spiritual experiences. These are all experiments, obviously. This installation was combined with a catalog, which collects sources of pop culture and science fiction, and that all sort of reveal that this work is sort of rooted in a collective anxiety towards death and the afterlife, and it's the kind of stuff that I'm really interested in right now for my thesis work. In the end, my explorations are mostly about, collecting stories and trying to find a common thread between myself, my peers, and my viewers. This last piece is a public manifesto for forward thinkers, and it's duct taped onto the walls of the street in Providence, where I live. It says, "We leave before being left and after being right." And it's a little bit of an obnoxious statement, really, but it's intended to be speaking to my community of forward thinkers and thinking we have to push forward, and I guess that's the ultimate goal for the work that I'm doing. So thanks for listening.